All right, welcome back to Tipping Point. My name is Frederick Muitiriri. Yesterday night, this statement was said by the president and his counterpart, that is ODM leader Raila Odinga. We are making a joint appeal to members of the National Assembly and the Senate to join the 3.1 million Kenyans who supported the bill and the 44 county assemblies who approved it in upholding what represent the hopes and aspirations of all those who participated in various public forums seeking long-term solutions to this country's problems. That is Raila Odinga, the ODM party leader, and of course Jubilee party leader Uhuru Kenyatta. And right about time, let's just listen into what is happening in Parliament as the voting for the BBI Bill continues. Lovely. It's always beautiful to follow our politicians when they are trying to say they are voting for us.
Yeah. Sure.
When they are voting for us, and sometimes it's their personal gains. Yes. We know them because we've been here and we've been watching them. Yes. Some of we call them Tanga MPs. They have voted yes. Some of them is Kimani Gonjiri. They say the anointed one for the Tanga movement. Yes. And the other one is Mwashetani. They are voting yes. What do you make of this? Are they seeing the light?
They are actually seeing the light.
I knew you'd say that. Again.
Not for anything. It's purely because over
yes.
time,
yes.
as we continue to dissect the BBI and also look at what this means for our next elections, the citizens are also speaking. I remember the MCAs at the grassroots are not silent because these are the next MPs. You know, so somebody who's been, for example, an MC at the county assembly level is aiming to the next level and he's saying, how come I voted for this document and our party is for it and our, party leader is for it? Who are you to be against it? And, so if we were...
Is it about party, Ken? Is it about party or the people?
At this level, it is about party. Because remember, even the role of parliament...
But they're saying they're representing us, Ken.
No, forget about that. At this level, even the role of parliament is very ceremonial. They don't have to vote. Whether they say yes
or not.
We are expecting around 176 from the National Assembly and 34 senators to vote. Whether they say yes or no, the ultimate vote is with the people. And so the parties want to use this particular, stance, because this is really drama, is optics, for us to see how the next
which side of the coin you
yes,
are.
and then the next stages of BBI are going to be rushed, because from here it goes to the president, then it goes to IEBC, and then we go for the referendum for the people. And in between that, there is also going to be campaigns. So people also looking at positioning themselves for 2022. And you cannot position yourself as an independent candidate now using the BBI, particularly if you look at the gains of the BBI that also political parties have. So that's really what I see, which probably you're calling seeing the light, like Saul to Paul, right? To be able to change your minds and then change your vote. But then the consequences are much more dire for, say, for instance, Jubilee people who vote no, as opposed to people who have ascribed themselves to the DP, who ultimately remain consistent to the rallying call around we are against BBI and continue to vote like that. The consequences are much more lesser if you say you are Tanga and you vote no, as opposed to if you are, say, Kieleweke and you vote no, and the vice versa is the same. That if you ultimately look at how the politics of 2022 and party politics will play, then when you get to the point where the speaker says you have to come and stand at the microphone and cast your vote, you look at what do I lose? And then you say, I think I'll be much more stronger in my constituency through the party, which is Kieleweke for Jubilee people, if I say yes than if I say no.
Nurdin, let me bring you into this conversation. And let me ask you, the Deputy President said not once or twice that we need more amendments to the BBI bill. Now we are voting for it. And like Ken is saying, it's so ceremonial. From here, it's just a referendum, straight. Even if they don't vote or they vote, it will go straight to a referendum. As much as we'd want to say that they are not voting for Kenyans and their yes or no is not for Kenyans, we are looking at a referendum. Which side of the coin do you think Wanjiku is?
You know, right now, if you talk to the Kenyan, they'll tell you they have more pressing issues. Some people have been retrenched, courtesy of COVID. Some people have been displaced, courtesy of the demolitions we've been seeing around. Some people are hungry. Some people don't know how they'll take their children to school come next week. So they have more pressing issues. Right now, buying groceries is a luxury. It's like buying a Mercedes S-Class. That's how hard life is. And you see the members of parliament we have, they forget their most fundamental duty is legislation. I wonder where they were when the Finance Bill 2020 was being passed. That put LPG at 16% VAT. We wonder where they were. You see, the sad reality is that...
That will go back to Kenyan chucking more.
You see, the sad reality is that people say, I'm voting for my people, they name the constituency. But do they really care what the Kenyan wants? Because at the end of the day, we have more pressing issues. Right now, yesterday, we reported, and the Indian variant.
5 cases.
What have we done to protect the people from that? The same vaccines that we had from day one are the ones we have in. Right now, we are being told the second vaccine might be different. This is a country that is talking about a document that can actually wait, and a virus that is there right now, we are being told this virus, just relax. Let us pass the BBI first, itakuwa sawa. It is sad because we have misplaced priorities. That is the problem with Kenya. Our leadership is upside down.
I'm sure Ken will not agree with you.
You know, you see, it's more, you see, we lack selfless, patriotic, visionary leadership. You see, the problems, he mentioned the 9 problems. He didn't say the real issue. The 9 problems we have are courtesy of the leadership in Kenya. Because if you want to talk about tribalism, it is the leaders, not the Kenyan. Because right now, Otieno and Kamau will watch a game
together
of Champions League. Laugh, go home.
Yeah, Arsenal is playing today versus...
But come election,
yes.
Or they remind you that you are Luo, or that you are Luya, that you are Kamba. And I like the president because he acknowledged, he said the other day in Bomas, he said that they are the orchestrators of tribalism. Yeah. You know, it's the medieval kind of politics.
If they are the creators of the tribal politics, why should we have this BBI in the first place, Maureen?
If I may go back to what I said earlier on,
yes.
For me, BBI at this point is unnecessary. And allow me to disagree a little bit with my brother Ken, who said that the members of parliament are voting BBI. Some of them are voting yes and no based on the party. I tend to disagree because we are seeing a number of, some of the members of parliament affiliated to the Tanga movement are actually voting yes. Whereas it's not like our deputy president was for no. He didn't say no. Let me also correct my brother Ken. Our deputy president, during the bombast launch of the BBI process, the BBI document, called for a consensus. He actually called for a consensus.
He didn't say no.
He didn't say no.
He's for it.
He didn't say
They've
no.
been saying he's for it.
No. He's not. He's not for it. We don't know if he's for. Okay, for me, my stand would be.
He has. You see, Maureen. If somebody cannot clearly, like Babo or the president, stand here and tell us, I am for the document. If you keep dilly-dallying, you're for it.
But you see,
just tell us you're for it.
But you see, my dear, this is not dilly-dallying. This is a case scenario of good and bad. Like I said earlier on, BBI is not necessary for now, but under the same Building Bridges initiative, which was a good process in the beginning, has pros and cons. Just like anything in this world has its pros and cons. I think the deputy president could be looking at the future, could be looking at the bigger picture of what if we're talking of Building Bridges initiative and we still have some Kenyans who will feel not satisfied at the end of the BBI process. What happens? So I think for him, he was looking at a consensus in terms that what is good, let's keep it. What is being disagreed by the majority of Kenyans, or what is not good, let's find a way of dealing with it to make
Maureen,
it more.
Don't you think the deputy president was playing his cards? And remember, he said we should have the referendum together with the general elections. Don't you think he wanted all these changes so that we can wait until 2022?
I don't think so. In my view, I think he was looking in terms of priority. And if we hold, you remember his words very well. He said, for now, what is pressing is COVID-19 issue. Can we deal with it first? Then save resources. If we go into a referendum right now for Kenyans to vote yes or no, and the whole BBI process has been expensive so far and a burden on the common mananchi in terms of the taxpayer, we're now looking at an instance whereby if we go for a referendum, we have a bigger budget. And then we have another election coming up in less than...
But our budget is still bigger, so it will be accommodated. Ken?
Wouldn't we... Okay, allow me to say, wouldn't we have accommodated that budget into fighting COVID instead? And then look at the consensus and wait for 2022, which is also a good idea. Then put the referendum in terms of multiple choices, and then which is now a consensus, and then have the general election, which will be saving on resources, because we're talking about the same process. We're talking about a Kenyan waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning to go and cast their vote. And
don't you think, and taking this question to Ken, I know he will support, I know Ken will support this, but
ask the question
I'm thinking, I think things should have gone to Maureen, that we are looking at an election, and like Ken said, the issues that we've faced in this country over and over again, we are supposed to solve them before an election. Why shouldn't we solve them now? Why are we waiting until 2022?
All right, if we're looking at solving these issues, why don't we then come up with a document that is all-inclusive? A document that is fair to all, fair to Wanjiko, fair to the common man. For instance, if you look at the same parliament that is today voting yes or no for the BBI document, under the Article 256 and 257 of the Kenyan Constitution, they are left with very little room for them to do anything substantive with regards to constitutional matters or constitutional amendment or a referendum. So for them, basically, it's a yay or nay situation, which at the end of the day looks like a conveyor belt, yeah? It's like a propeller to now take it to the next level. And then if Parliament now is a conveyor belt, we're now looking at an instance whereby now the document will be thrown into the common mananchi to now decide, and in a referendum process, of course. And for me, I would feel like now it has come a time where Kenyans have to stand up and do that which is right. Kenyans have to now stand up and now protect their country, protect their welfare, protect their future, protect the future of their children by voting no when it comes to the referendum. That is, if
this is a politician, total politician.
He's running for office.
Of course. Ken,
yes, please.
There are some clauses that even some members of ODM have said they are illegal. Now, we are taking this referendum to Wanjiko. It's definitely going to be a yes or a no. What are we telling Kenyans? What are we telling Kenyans? That we can have a country, that we can pass laws illegally and it's okay, and because we don't have a choice when it comes to us, we'll say yes or no? Shouldn't we have what Deputy President was saying? questions per questions. This, I agree with this, I disagree with this. Shouldn't we have that?
That, Fred, has already been dealt with through the amendment, the Constitutional Amendment Bill. Remember, the articles that my good friend Maureen is referring to subject the amendment of the Constitution to only two ways. There can only be two processes. Why parliamentarians have no business, even in the kind of vote that they are having right now, is because this is a popular initiative.
Yeah.
Had we had a parliamentary process, then they would have had a very strong say. And in fact, Wanjiku would have felt represented by the people they put in office. But because Mheshimiwa Raila and Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, at the level of Constitution Amendment 256 of the Constitution, exercised their role as citizens to propose an amendment to the Constitution, which you can do, she can do, my good friend can do, I can do, any Kenyan, as long as you, go to IEBC and you propose these issues and you say, I have collected 1 million signatures, and then you are given an opportunity. To the question, and why I believe those issues have been dealt with, is because, number two, there are only specific clauses, which are called protected clauses in the Constitution, which you can subject Kenyans to a referendum upon. Now, these are issues which live beyond COVID-19. These are issues which live beyond the poverty that Kenyans are actually going through. And if you look
but what's urgent? And I understand where these two are coming from.
Agree,
what's urgent?
But you see, there is never a right or wrong time to amend a constitution. For instance, if you are in a school where your child says, Mami, kila siku mimi nachapwa tu na mwalimu. And then you tell this kid, hey, you just wait. You only have a few weeks to sit your exam and then you will quit. What if this kid is properly beaten and never gets to, have the privilege and the opportunity to sit for exam? What you do is you go back to the issues around disciplinary in the school. Do you have mechanisms to have guidance and counseling? What do you do when, what's the role of parents in the school when you have errant children? There are questions which you begin to ask. Because I don't want to get into how government has dealt with COVID-19, because our government, despite the theft that we have seen and the irresponsible behavior of our politicians, there are things that the president has proposed in his economic stimulus package, which worked very well in the first year.
That was last year, not this year, though.
And I'm coming to that. Money was stolen. What Kenyans have not done...
He gave us 21 days.
Yes.
They're still waiting.
What we have failed to do is to go and ask those difficult questions. Instead, we have joined the politicians in the bandwagon of BBI is not a priority, BBI is this, BBI is that. But if we were able to organize ourselves as Kenyans, the way we spend a lot of time on Twitter and, what do we do after we tweet and it trends and it lasts for 4 days, even if it is 24 hours. Beyond that, there is nothing much. So whether it's right or wrong because of our priorities, there is never a right or wrong time to amend a constitution. In fact, for us as Kenyans, as Maureen said, when we audit the constitution and we look at the pros and the cons, we cannot now stop saying the pros are working, so let's stop on the cons. This is our first amendment of the constitution since its promulgation on was it 28th August 2010?
Yeah.
And so we are doing this to safeguard that future generation. And if you move beyond the amendment bill and begin to look at the good things that BBI is bringing, no one is talking about them, but it's because we have given the responsibility of drumming support or failure of the document to the political class.
Nordin.
Yeah.
Should we have amended this constitution after now 11 years? Was it necessary to amend it right now?
You see, when the constitution was being passed in 2010, there were issues that were not okay. So people say, let it pass.
Yeah, I remember it was 80% was good, 20% was so let's pass it.
Yeah, we shall revisit later.
From where I sit, what is the urgency? Because this is a country where court orders are never followed. Observance of the constitution is next to nil. So right now you want to amend something that you don't subscribe to, something that you don't follow. People don't understand the meaning or the strength of the oath they take for office. Like right now, members of parliament, they're voting. If you ask them, read this oath of office. Do you know what this means? When you're being sworn in with a constitution, and you say you will protect, serve, and uphold the constitution. If you don't, that means you should be out of office. People don't understand that. Now we have a scenario where the Constitution of Kenya has not been upheld, it hasn't been protected, and people violate it. But now they say, you know what, it's hard to amend. Let us amend this thing. It's like you have a child, and then you are unable to take him or her to school because you don't have school fees, but you say, let me solve this by getting another child. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It is misplaced priorities. We are a country where we are meant to mark 58 years of independence in 2021, but still facing the three most important diseases in Kenya. That is ignorance, poverty, and diseases.
1963.
And then you dare say, listen, you dare say that, you know what, BBI is a way to prosperity. We need to change our software. The political class needs to change, because if they don't change, the same document, once it becomes law, will never be followed. And that's how these things are. You see, they are the same monkeys, different forests. Now, they are jumping from one party to a new party, one alliance to another alliance. What the BBI is meant to do is meant to do
Goodness me.
It is meant to bring about BBI billionaires. You know, everything in Kenya is a scandal in the waiting, and it's meant to bring about political formations. Why she was at pains to answer the deputy president question on taking the no stand is because from where he sits.
The advantages.
Let me tell you something. From where he sits, he's been boxed into a corner to lead the no campaign. Do you know why? Because for any contest, you need to legitimize it. So if he leads the no campaign, they legitimize the campaign that is the BBI process, the referendum. So he looks at this thing and asks himself, if
we have less than minutes, so I'll give you 30 seconds to close.
So he looks at it and he's like, if I go into this and focus on this, I deplete my war chest that is meant for 2022. And that is the game plan. And then you're going to be at crossroads with your boss. What kind of deputy president are you going to be?
Closing remarks. We have seen and we know they are going to vote. Of course, the majority is going to carry the day. That we know by now. But we are looking at 2022. Do you think we are going to have a referendum this year?
In my opinion, I would rather say no. We wouldn't have a referendum this year. However, I'd like the parliamentarians to also bear in mind and remember that the same document they're voting for today has removed their powers for vetting the executive. What does this mean? This means that the executive now has imperial powers. And come an instance, an unforeseen instance.
I know you'd want to continue with this, but I've given you 30 seconds, Ken. 30 seconds, your closing remarks. Now, is it necessary we have a referendum this year? We have COVID-19? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
The process has already, as I say, from the political level, the train has left the station. And Kenyans will have to arise from our comfort zones to take over the power. Remember, our sovereign, Article 1 of the Constitution gives sovereign power to the people. We have surrendered this by sending people to represent us. We need to sit back where you are watching us from at home, including my family members, Natalie and Tim. Ask Mami, what is your role in making this country a better place?
Thank you very much. We close with that. What is your role as a person, as an individual, in making this country better? The trouble with the government is that it talks too much, acts too slow, and does too little, doesn't it? What the country needs instead is not more laws, but more good men in public service. By Rodrigo Duterte. All right, and I will tell you this, the views by these great people are not those views of this station, Switch TV, but individual views. Thank you so very much for coming in. Nurdin, my friend, Ken, and Maureen. Thank you for having time for Switch TV. Until next week, my name is Frederick Muiteriri. I'm being told that voting will close in 10 minutes, so unfortunately, I would have wished to tell you the outcome, but I know you'll be following that. Have yourself a good night.